Hey, Bill. Happy Thursday. How are you?
Mitchell, I'm wonderful. How are you?
I'm doing well. Last week was a wonderful week. You guys were rather busy. How'd you end up the week so far?
It's been another crazy week. We added another recruiter, and we have another one joining us on Monday. So yeah, it's crazy times. And this particular one we added this week. They say that you don't need to be a rocket scientist to work in recruiting. This latest guy that we've added is actually a rocket scientist who worked for 7 years for NASA. So yeah, we've gone the rocket scientist route to this point.
Yeah, I saw the post. Congratulations.
Thank
Very
you.
good on that acquisition. Okay, so let's jump into it. We got a lot to cover. So from last week, we left off the podcast, and I believe that you said that you believe that women are better suited in logistics than men, and that you were going to have some statistics. And being that these next two podcasts are going to be revolving around women in logistics, I'm just kind of curious on some of the statistics. Now, I did read a post that you did share from the CEO of, I believe, C.H. Robinson, Mr. Bob
Yep.
Biesterfield.
Bob Biesterfield, yeah.
And I really liked what he did, where he joined the 27 CEOs in Minnesota to make working environments better after all the stuff that's been happening in Minnesota.
Yep.
And I really like their DEI program, their diversity, equity, and inclusion. So these are great points with respect to, as a matter of fact, it's a great way to discuss and start our women in logistics. So being that you said you had some some stats on this, I think I'm ready to hear it.
You ready to crush me, huh?
I'm ready. I got to hear these.
All right. So, and to the viewers, excuse me if I'm looking down a little bit today, because there are so many notes, and I just want to make sure we get it all covered, because I'm sure that there's going to be some pushback and there's going to be some opinions, maybe contra opinions, and that's fine. That's fine. So I will be looking down at these notes quite frequently. So excuse that. Yeah. So what I'm going off is some research that was conducted by Korn Ferry, who are the preeminent global people and organizational advisory firm. And in their research, they found that women score higher than men on nearly all of the emotional intelligence competencies, except for emotional self-control, where they were kind of level with men. There were no gender differences were observed. Now, this data was gathered from 55,000 professionals in all levels of management from 90 different countries, using what they call the emotional and social competency inventory. And according to the research, women tend to self-evaluate themselves as less competent than men, while men, remarkably, tend to overrate themselves in their competencies. And research shows, however, that the reality is often more the opposite. So what they're saying in the research is if men acted more like women in employing their emotional and social competencies, they'd be substantially and distinctly more effective in their work. So let me just go over what the competencies were that were measured. And I'm going to struggle with this word competency all day today, apparently. So the competencies that were measured were self-awareness, emotional self-awareness, self-management, emotional self-control, achievement orientation, positive outlook, adaptability, social awareness, empathy, organizational awareness, relationship management, influence, coaching and mentoring, conflict management, inspirational leadership, and teamwork. And I can't think of a single one of them that wouldn't apply in logistics. So if women are scoring significantly higher than men in 11 out of 12 categories, and they're equal on the 12th category, then why aren't we seeing more women in leadership in logistics? So to go through and kind of dissect a little bit of these Korn Ferry research, they found that across the 12 key areas of emotional and social intelligence, the greatest difference between men and women could be seen in emotional self-awareness, where women are 80% more likely than men to be seen as using the complete consistency. So we had 18.4% of women demonstrate the competency consistently compared to 9.9% of men. Women are 45% more likely than men to be seen as demonstrating empathy consistently. 45% more likely than men to be seeing empathy, or to be demonstrating empathy in a consistent manner. The smallest margin of difference was seen in the positive outlook. So when it comes to this competency, women are only 9% more likely to exhibit the competency more consistently than men. The other competencies in which women outperform men are coaching and mentoring. I mean, can you think of an example in leadership where coaching and mentoring wouldn't be important, but women are significantly outperforming men, according to this research? And other areas we saw were in inspirational leadership, influence, teamwork, adaptability, organizational awareness, achievement orientation. And then emotional self-control was the only competency in which men and women showed an equal performance. So, you know, what do we get from this? So I also want to throw in something else, and maybe this it certainly surprised me, and maybe it surprises you, Mitchell, and maybe, you know, maybe the viewers, and maybe it doesn't. So did you know that women, let's say females, get better grades at every educational level in every subject and have higher college graduation rates than men?
I believe it.
Did you believe that? You believe it?
I believe.
Are you believing it because I've just said it based on some research, or, you know, would you have guessed that?
I would have guessed that.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I would have guessed it.
So why hasn't this, you know, translated into greater employment gains for women? So again, you know, if we talk to the experts on this, experts will say that women remain primary caregivers for raising children, and that impedes their careers in many ways. A mother earns 20% less than a father in the years following the birth of their child. So the gender pay gap is almost, it's like a penalty for having children, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So, you know, this is some basic research that I've been doing, and I know there's a lot more to be done, a lot more research to be done, and I would love to hear some counter views on this as to why women are not getting kind of an equal shake in logistics, and certainly, you know, across many industries. And we're seeing companies that are making an effort now, making a conscious effort. And you know, I am in touch with a lot of women in leadership, and I know that some of these women in leadership are now mentoring and coaching other women and other business leaders, which is awesome. And it's kind of, you know, breaking up that good old boys club. And I kind of facetiously have said in various posts that I've made about women in logistics and how, you know, how I value and have for many years, how I valued women in logistics and women in business and women in sales. And I've kind of facetiously said that guys, you know, you need to get used to this, because one day you're going to be working for a woman. And so, you know, get your head around it, and get your head around it soon.
Yeah, you know, it's funny you say that, because and you made a really good point, is this is a good old boy industry, especially once you get into the maritime side. It's very male oriented. So I mean, I haven't seen very women on the maritime side.
Yep.
And I still haven't, and I still don't. It's a very close knit. I mean, do you think that we could break that barrier to, you know, seeing more women, you know, working at these ports, or is it what they keep mentioning in a lot of these articles? It's a man's job. What do we? I don't understand why we keep saying that. I mean, obviously with these statistics coming out, it's good to have that type of leadership skills. Do you think that we're afraid as the male gender to allow that to come in and you know, kind of invade our turf? I mean, what do you think it could be? Do you think is it that we find it threatening?
Possibly. You know, that's an interesting question. So I think what needs to happen is we need to see more Bob Biesterfields, and we need to see more C.H. Robinsons, and we need to see more, you know, CEOs of major companies. And, you know, Robinson's a $21 billion, you know, 110-year-old company. We need to see more people like this stepping up and stepping out and having having very transparent programs where women are being given equal opportunity. I will say that and in all fairness to C.H. Robinson, I've primarily worked with them over the years on their global forwarding side, where they have a significant number of women in leadership. The number 3 person in the organization is a woman who grew through the ranks. I see in most of their branches, I see women in leadership, and I see in sales, I see a lot of women in leadership. So, on the global forwarding side, certainly, and I don't know too much about the NAST side, the North American Surface Transport side of C.H. Robinson, but on the global forwarding side, I've seen tremendous advancements, and I've been seeing them for many, many, many years. So I think what needs to happen is that this has to go beyond the discussion stage. It's 2021, for goodness sake. Why are women still getting? Why are women getting 20% less than men? After the birth of children. Why are women not being considered for opportunities? Because someone somewhere goes, well, maybe we shouldn't include her in that because she's got to leave at 4 o'clock to go pick up the kids. This is wrong. This is seriously wrong, and it's something that needs addressing. And so, in addition to people like Bob Biesterfield and like the Robinsons of this world, there's got to be more people taking action. Less talk, more action. I would say that's what needs to happen. Is there needs to be less talk, more action, and there needs to be greater transparency. And we need to be highlighting women in logistics. We have all sorts of clubs for men and all sorts of awards that seem to be going to men, and we don't have enough recognition for women in logistics. So, let's champion that. I would be happy to, forward names and name names of some very, very influential women in logistics who've been doing an amazing job. But, they're not getting the same recognition as their male counterparts. And, you mentioned the steamship line or the maritime industry. I think Maersk, is a company that's been looking at this, looking at ways to do something about this, as if this is a brand new problem, like that it just popped up today. No, guys, it didn't pop up today. This has been a problem since forever. And, it starts at the top, but you fix it at the bottom. So you've got to be bringing in more women, into apprenticeship roles, and you've got to be bringing more women into the organization in order to be able to promote them. So, it shouldn't be a problem that we're still talking about in 2021. That's for sure.
I agree. And what's good about Maersk is I've worked with Maersk for many years, and they do have a MARS program, which is a management program that they take candidates out of college and place them into managerial positions. And it takes a couple of months to kind of get them, kind of like an apprenticeship almost.
Yeah.
And what I will say from personal experience is that 90% of the people that were taken the year that I was there were men. And this is true because most of my class, a lot of these mariners were all men, the ones becoming pilots and so on and so forth. But let me ask you another question. One thing that I've come across in the maritime industry and as well in the air industry, when I've discussed in the past with some of my peers and so on and so forth, they've always asked, are you going to be doing interviews, and what type of candidate are you looking for? And I've been asked before, are you going to look at for women or men? Is this something that you get asked by some of the people that are requesting recruiting, whether they would rather have a male or a female in certain positions, or is that something that is never really discussed?
It's a bit of a taboo subject. I think, it certainly helps that we know our client companies really, really well, and we know their cultures really, really well. And frankly, we wouldn't work with a company that wasn't an inclusive company. So, we don't get asked that question. We don't get told, we'd rather have a woman for this or we'd rather have a guy for that. We're not doing industrial positions, so we're not doing, forklift truck drivers. Although, I've seen many, many, many really, really good forklift truck drivers, and I've seen a load of, highly competent women truck drivers. So it's not a question we get asked, and maybe that's because they know that we wouldn't, we certainly wouldn't take too kindly to being asked that question, and mostly because we know our client companies and we know that they are, for the most part, very, very inclusive.
Another question that I really want to really push is the pay. why is it that women do make less? I was an at-home dad for a little bit of time, and I'm going to tell you something. It is hard work. You can't pay me enough to do what I do with the kids. So it's kind of strange to seeing, being able women after having, a family to being able to go back into the workforce and then taking a 20% cut.
Yep.
How can we avoid this from happening? Or is this like, what kind of questions or what kind of guidance can we give some of these women that are coming into the industry in respect to, looking for certain positions?
I think first of all, we need to respect equality. And that cuts across everything. That's not just men and women, but equality, in everything. We're all part of the same race, which is the human race. When we get these stereotypes that women are better than men or men are better than women, well, we know that women are better at men than delivering babies, because not a single guy has ever delivered one or given birth to a baby. So we know that women are way better than men at that. And so we've got to start with serious initiatives at the top. Serious, and again, I'll say it again, very transparent initiatives at the top. It can't just be lip speak. It can't just be companies saying, "Oh, we're going to do this," and then that gets all the good publicity, and then they don't practice what they preach. We see companies in action practicing what they preach, and we support that 100%. What we need to see is other companies that are just talking the talk but not walking the walk, and we've got to see. I want somebody to tell me why this Korn Ferry research is all wrong. I want somebody to tell me why the Korn Ferry research that women score higher in 11 of 12 emotional intelligence categories than men, because emotional intelligence is one of the factors that most companies should be using when they're selecting employees. And so if they're using those factors when they're selecting employees, why aren't they selecting at least as many women as men, if not more women than men? Because the numbers would support that perhaps they should be looking for more women than men.
It's funny you say that, because a lot of the stuff that I've been taught in this industry is take the emotion out of it. Yep. Hey, when you send an email, take the emotion out, take the eyes, take the me, the things, the feels, and make it straight. Just let's state the facts. That also could be something that we could look at. But let me ask you something else, Bill, is how about women that actually grow within a country, within a company? It's easier to get into a management position than being hired from the outside directly into that position. Is that something that you feel is valid to say?
Well, I think most great companies have great succession planning and deep benches, and so managers should be hired from within, to the extent that you have people capable of going into that job. And again, that shouldn't be predicated on whether that person is a man or a woman. But I think that's happening a lot. I think that companies are electing to promote from within, and a lot of that is the good old boys club again, rather than looking at the very, very competent woman, and maybe having these preconceived notions that because it's a woman and because she's married and because she's got kids, that she's going to go home and cook dinner and take care of the kids. Again, it's 2021. We're not cavemen. We're not living in caves. We've gone well past the Industrial Revolution. So there's time for change. As far as people coming in, I did somebody I know really, really well. I don't need to mention her name, but she was just drafted in by a company that we work with, and I got news of that today in a very, very senior position. And she'd never worked for the company before, so that was great. It's good to see that, but I'm not seeing anywhere near enough of that, and that's the issue. I think employees, companies, when they see the announcement that Mary, hey guys and gals, this is great news. Mary just got promoted to import manager after 27 years with the company. Really? How come Joe got a similar job after 2 years with the company?
Right.
So employees need to be asking these questions. Employees need to be looking at their employers and looking at their workplace and seeing if there is equality and inclusion in their workplace. And if there isn't, then maybe they need to be looking for, a company that promotes diversity and inclusion.
I think you're correct, but I also think there's also a little bit of fear within the industry if a woman is being mistreated or if they don't feel that they're being paid enough. I think there is a bit of fear of them going to speak out because they don't want to risk losing their jobs.
Well, I hear that, and a couple of people have made that point to me in the past, and I hope that we're now at an age, and I hope we've seen enough that we can be better than that. That we really need to be better than that, and women should be able to speak out the same way that men should be able to speak out, the same way that people of different race, creed, or color should be able to speak out without fear of any kind of a repercussion. If that's the way they feel, then they're probably working for the wrong company. If they feel that they can't speak up and speak out, then they're probably working for the wrong company.
But let me ask you this, being that you're so involved in the recruiting, do you think that maybe we should take off of applications your sex, your gender, for example, your ethnicity?
I don't see how it matters. I think the only thing that matters is if you're competent enough to do the job. That's the only thing that matters. And what does competency have to do with anybody's gender or sexual orientation or race?
Of course, but when you're coming into a good old boy industry, you know how the good old boys can be. They kind of throw their weight around, and unfortunately, these guys are in certain positions to where there's not really much you can move because the buck will stop there. So,
then correct me if I'm wrong, but are dinosaurs extinct at this point?
Yes.
Okay. Well, there you go, good old boys. Dinosaurs, which are pretty big, powerful animals, they became extinct. And so, good old boys, and you don't have to be 75 years old to be a good old boy. You can be, 25, 35, 45, 55. Sure. It's a club, right? So, if you want to continue to be dinosaurs, then, chances are that you will become extinct. So my advice to people would be to be a lot more inclusive, to be a lot more transparent, and to just generally be more open-minded. That's what needs to happen. And go off and do the research for yourself, right? So next time you're planning on next time somebody's planning on hiring somebody, and they have in their mind that there's got to be a guy. I definitely need a dude to do that job, right? To manage that group of 25 people who are cutting airway bills, or doing 3461s or 7501s, or filling out bill of ladings. Think about what you really need in that job. But think, with blinkers on, in the sense that blindfolded, right? It doesn't matter if it's a man or a woman. It doesn't matter what race, creed, or color they are. If they're good enough, that's the person we need to hire.
I agree. And I've also heard women that are in our industry, sometimes they don't even like walking through the warehouse because some of them, some of those warehouse guys can be a little aggressive, and they feel very uncomfortable. When I was the GM over for a airline in my past, I've had a lot of my sales and operation ladies that would come in and saying, I don't feel comfortable walking through the warehouse. Mm-hmm. Can you walk me around because of certain things? I'm hoping that a lot of these companies are also bringing the employees in the warehouse to this attention, because that's kind of like, it seems like the office is well trained, but once you pass that door and get into the beep, 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 and all these sounds, the whole concept of equality and everything else goes out the window.
Well, I take your point on the warehouse, and without picking on those guys, but it can just as easily be happening in an office environment where there's a bunch of guys. Typically, when guys get together, what we get is men behaving badly, and what we need, and what we're starting to see now, is a little bit more of men behaving responsibly because they're being watched. Looking the other way, and a lot of this comes down, if this is a guy-girl thing, if this is a man-woman thing, if this is, if I can walk out in the warehouse and I'm not going to get harassed, which is highly unlikely, but if I can walk out in the warehouse, then a woman ought to be able to walk out of the warehouse or any other part of the building without getting harassed. Anybody that sees it happening should make a point of stopping it. So, if somebody is is escorting a woman or in the warehouse and somebody behaves inappropriately, I think that person needs to be reprimanded right there on the spot and told that that kind of behavior is unacceptable.
Agreed.
But right there and then, so people can see other people in action. It may cause people to step out a little bit more. I mean, again, I don't want to blame everybody who works in a warehouse. I know some wonderful people who work in warehouses, and they wouldn't dream of behaving like that. But it's typically where men get together. That's when it happens, because when men get together, they generally, frequently behave badly, and that needs to stop.
I agree. Now, to make it, I know we're kind of short on time, but and I know next week we're going to continue.
Yep.
And I know we have a lot more to cover.
Yep.
Next week, we are actually going to bring in a woman in logistics to speak a little bit more.
I'm going to invite, the owner of a company. It's an individual who I have the utmost respect for. I'm going to invite her, and yeah, I'd love to be able to announce that she's able to participate. She's not the only one. I can think of several others, but I certainly feel pretty confident that we can add a woman to this discussion, because I'd love to hear that viewpoint. I have a lot of sympathy and empathy and understanding, and it's something that I have spoken out about for a long time, and I've championed women's cause. But I'm one person, and I am making a very, 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 very small difference. So I'm not going to pat myself on the back, give myself credit for something that I'm not making that much of a difference in. It requires all of us. It requires all of us to just start behaving a little bit better. No, actually, a lot better. And we need to take notice of facts, unless somebody can produce some research that completely blows this Corn Ferry research out of the water. I would love to see it. I'll be happy to read it.
And I would love for any of the viewers that are watching to send us questions to ask for next week, so that we can get back to them. I know that we're getting a lot of emails with respect to job placement, but this is such an important topic in our industry, and it's going to keep coming up. Diversity, equality, all those good things. And I mean, what really could make a company blossom and have its diversity, that it's just so beautiful. And some of us forget that. So next week, we will definitely bring someone in so that everyone can hear, but please send us emails. Just one more time, I just wanted to just catch up. How are you guys doing at Logitel, and how is the placements this week? How's the market looking?
We are up to 14 recruiters now. So a lot of our focus has been on recruiting recruiters so we can meet the demand of finding talent. But here's the problem, right? Here's the crux of the problem. Let's say, for argument's sake, there are 5,000 agents in the Chicagoland area, import, export, air, ocean, entry rights, and whatever they are, right? It's a fixed and finite number. Nobody is manufacturing more and throwing them into the talent pool, right? So, if this were another industry, if this were a nut and bolt industry, and we didn't have enough nuts and bolts, then we'd start manufacturing a whole lot more nuts and bolts, so we didn't have to keep reusing the same nuts and bolts or taking somebody else's nuts and bolts. So, this is a problem for the industry. And right now, we're seeing a lot of companies put a Band-Aid on it. We are going to be working, very closely with the company to try to provide a long-term solution to this. We'll certainly share more about that in weeks to come. But, demand is higher than it's ever been. And that just escalates week on week on week. So what we've been doing is expanding the number of recruiters. As I say, we're up to 14. Next week, next Monday, we'll be at 15. So we'll continue to expand, our bandwidth so that we can continue to take care of our customers and supply great talent. So it's a crazy time for everybody, and I'm not a bleeding heart by any stretch of anybody's imagination. We thrive when our client companies thrive, and we struggle when our client companies struggle. So. But it's a common problem, and it's something we're working very, very closely with them on.
Yeah,
I appreciate you asking.
Yeah, they've got to be struggling. Imports up 79%, exports up 6%. I mean, I don't know. We don't have enough people to clear the goods, but that could be for a different discussion. I really do appreciate your time, Bill. I really do. If you could just tell us one more time how to get a hold of you, Bill.
Okay, you can reach me, you can email me, Bill Paul, BILLPAUL, @logitalent.com. You can see me on LinkedIn, you can message me on LinkedIn, anything like that. Look, I'm not here to push today for candidates to reach out to me to get another job. I really want us to stay focused on this topic of equality in our industry, gender equality in our industry, and we really need to address the diversity issues that are going on in our industry. Everything else, will fall into place. We're going to continue to be extremely aggressive recruiters, and we're going to continue to uncover great talent, literally all over the country. And but we want to be just incredibly mindful of the topic today, and I'd love to see us, follow this up next week and even the week after. For as long as this thing has legs, I'd love to hear some people giving their opinions on it. Again, I'm expressing an opinion, somewhat supported with some information from Korn Ferry.
All right. Well, equality, that's a huge topic. So, and that definitely lands on the women in logistics. So let's keep it at that. Let's leave it hanging for next week, so that when we do bring in a individual that actually owns a company within the industry, she can give us more insight as well. And I think a lot of people would want to see what the insight, the real day-to-day is.
Yep.
Working as logistics individual. So again, Bill, thank you so much for your time. I hope you continue having a wonderful week, and we'll connect next Thursday.
You too, Mitchell. Thanks for having me on the show, and look forward to the feedback.
You got it. Be well.
Thanks, Mitch.
Bye-bye.